We all know that the physiology is the backbone of medicine. Well, what is the backbone of physiology? It is homeostasis. In this video, I am going to tell you what is homeostasis and how the body maintains it. Hey everyone, welcome back to HM Learnings. I am Harshita, the creator of HM Learnings, where students come to clear their concept and to get the study material. Make sure that you have subscribed my channel. You can also follow HM Learnings on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for daily updates. We have also started sharing all our contents on website called as SlideShare. You can easily download and clip our slides from that website. I have also started sharing the SlideShare link of each video in the description box of that video. So you don't need to go anywhere, you just click on that link and you will be on the SlideShare. Recently we have started giving online live classes of physiology and they will be taken by me. So you can ask any doubt directly from me. To know more, you can contact us on this email ID or you can mail us or you can message us on any of our official pages. So with this, we will begin this video. So firstly, we need to know what is homeostasis, what is the definition of homeostasis. So homeo means like and status means standing still. Homeostasis is defined as the maintenance of constant conditions in the body. Now there are certain things in the body which need to be constant, which need to be kept within their normal range. For example, our body temperature. No matter what is the external temperature is, our body temperature needs to be constant, okay? And that is what is homeostasis. Homeostasis says that there should be maintenance of the variables within their normal range because these variables are actually very important for the normal functioning of the individual's life. The another example could be the blood pH. The blood pH has to be kept within a very narrow range of within their very normal narrow range, and it is very important for the individual's life, okay, because we know that there are a lot of enzymes in the body which have optimum pH, which have optimum temperature for their function. So if there is any variation in these parameters, in these variables, then it will cause the individual lives. So this is what the homeostasis says, that there should be maintenance of these variables within the constant range. Now the Walter Cannon is a scientist who coined the term homeostasis. Homeostasis is defined as a self-regulatory capacity, means there are mechanisms inside the human body which actually keep these variables within the normal range. So it is a self-regulatory capacity to maintain the steady states, means the constant state of the variables in the body, which is essential for keeping the individual alive despite of any change in the external environment. Okay, so here you can see there are two terms, internal environment and the external environment. What does it mean? External environment is the environment which is outside our body. Internal environment is the environment which is inside our body. So any change in the external environment will actually cause a little bit disturbance in the internal environment. And that is what homeostasis says, that if there is any change in the external environment, the body should have certain homeostatic mechanisms to alter any change in the internal environment which occurs in response to change in the external environment. Okay, so what is internal environment? Internal environment is the environment which continuously bathes the cell, in which the cells are amended, or it is the fluid that surrounds the cell. Basically, internal environment is the environment which affects the intracellular, that is the fluid inside the cell composition. The composition of the fluid which is inside the cell is directly affected by the internal environment, and it is the extracellular fluid. Now the question arises why the extracellular fluid is considered as the internal environment of the cell. Okay, so extracellular fluid bathes the cell continuously. It is the fluid that surrounds the cell. It has two components, the plasma and the interstitial fluid, and both these components has which function? They have the function to maintain the intracellular fluid composition. Okay, how? We know that the plasma and the interstitial fluid carry the nutrients to the cell, which is important for their survival, as well as they will remove the toxic substances from the cell. So they are basically maintaining the concentration of the nutrients which is required for their survival, as well as they are continuously removing those toxic substances whose accumulation can cause the death of the cell. So now you can see that how the homeostasis is being applied. Homeostasis says what? That there should be a maintenance of each and every variable within the constant range, within a constant concentration. And here the plasma and the interstitial fluid does that function. They are ensuring that there should be a proper supply of the nutrients, and as well as they are ensuring that there should be a proper removal of the waste products from the cell. Okay. So this is how, because ECF is the fluid which directly determines the composition of the intracellular fluid. Any change in the ECF will directly affect the composition of the ICF, and that is why the ECF is considered as the internal environment of the cell. Okay, ECF is basically acting as a link between the external environment and the intracellular fluid. Okay, so with this I hope that it is clear to you. Now we will move on. It is just a simple layout to represent that how basically the homeostasis is taking place. Okay, so any change in the external environment will cause the change in the internal environment, that is the extracellular fluid, ECF. It will be detected by the sensors present in the body, and then there will be activation of the mechanisms called as the homeostatic mechanisms, because these mechanisms maintain the homeostasis. That's why they are called as an homeostatic mechanisms to reverse the change. Okay, and this is what the homeostasis. Okay, so with this we will move on the homeostatic mechanisms. Okay, there are two homeostatic mechanisms. First is the feedback mechanism and the second is the feed-forward mechanism. First we look at the feedback mechanism and then we talk about the feed-forward mechanism. Okay, so before begin the homeostatic mechanisms, we need to know that what are the components which form this mechanism, or what are the parts of the body which are involved in these mechanisms. Okay, so we know that the homeostatic mechanisms trigger when there is change in the external environment. So any kind of the disturbance which has been happening in the external environment will cause a disturbance in the internal environment also. An internal environment, we know that it means nothing but the ECF. So there will be change in ECF. Okay, so that means change in ECF means there will be change in regulated variable. So now the question arises, what is regulated variable? In the body we have two variables. One is the regulated and the another one is the non-regulated variable. The regulated variable is the variable which is being regulated by the body, which is being kept within the normal range, and there are mechanisms in the body to keep that variable within the normal range. Like we have PO2, which is a regulated variable. PCO2 is also a regulated variable. Blood pH, body temperature, and many more are considered as a regulated variable because they are kept within the normal range, and there are mechanisms which ensure that they should be within their normal range. Another thing which is associated with the regulated variable is the presence of sensors. Any deviation in the regulated variable will be checked upon by the sensors present in the body, and these sensors will send the impulse to the control center. So this control center, majorly it is the brain, which actually controls the value of the regulated variable, and in order to control the value of the regulated variable, the control center will send the impulse to an effector. Now this effector will generate an effector response which will induce a change in the regulated variable. So regulated variable is being changed. It is sensed by a sensor. The sensor will take the impulse to the control center. From the control center, the impulse will go to the effector. The effector will generate the effector response which will bring a change in the non-regulated variable, or the another name is controlled variable. Now this is called as a controlled variable because this is used to control the regulated variable, and there is no sensor to check the variation in the controlled variable. It is the variable, it is a change which is being generated by the effector response. Okay, so now we will move on to now these are the definitions of each and every component which I have already told you. Regulated variable is kept within the certain range. It will be sensed by a sensor. Then control center will control the output of effector response. Effector will generate the effector response, and the controlled variable will be manipulated to achieve regulation of the regulated variable. This manipulation of the controlled variable will not be sensed by any sensor because there is no sensor which actually checks the value of the controlled variable. Okay, so feedback mechanisms are the mechanisms which occur in response to variation in a variable to bring the variable to its set point. So there is a change in the external environment, then there is a change in the internal environment. It will be sensed by a sensor and then it will be controlled. Okay, so there will be a variation and it will be followed by a mechanism which is called as a feedback mechanism to bring the variable back to its set point. Now there are two types of the feedback mechanism, negative and the positive feedback. Okay, so what is the difference between these two? There is change in external environment, there will be change in the internal environment. There will be variation in the regulated variable sensed by the sensor. It will stimulate the control center. It will stimulate the effector. The effector will generate the effector response, and the response in such a way that will cause the negative response to the regulated variable. What it means is that if there is increase in any value of the regulated variable, the effector response will cause the decrease in the value of that variation in the regulated variable. Okay, so suppose if the blood pressure has been increased to 1110 mmHg, the negative response of the negative feedback mechanism will decrease that change and bring about the blood pressure back to its set value. So this is how there is negative feedback. Another thing is that if the blood pressure is supposed decreased to 85 mmHg, then it will, here what has happened, the variation will cause a decrease in the value of the regulated variable, but the effector response will cause the increase in the value of the regulated variable. So it will then again return this value back to its normal value. So you can see there is always a negative response to the value of the regulated variable to the value of the variation of the regulated variable. Okay, on the other hand, in the case of positive feedback, there is always a positive response to the regulated variable. If the variable has been increased by a change in the external environment, then the effector response will further increase the value. Okay, if there is a decrease in that value because of a disturbance in the internal environment, the effector response will further decrease that value. So this is the difference between the negative feedback and the positive feedback. Okay, so the negative feedback mechanism is a series of changes that return the regulated variable towards its mean value or within its normal range by a negative response to the initiating stimulus. Okay, it causes a reduction in the error. Okay, so you can see in the previous slide I have shown you that the blood pressure, when it is increased to 1110 mmHg, Okay, then there is reduction in the error by bringing it back to the 93 mmHg. Similarly here, when the blood pressure is decreased to 85 mmHg, it has been brought back to the 93 mmHg. So there is reduction in the error. Okay, but in the case of the positive feedback, there is error amplification. Okay, there is increase in the regulated variable value, so the effective response will further increase that variation. So there will be error amplification. So now we look at the example of the negative feedback, and in this we will take the example of the blood pressure, the mean arterial pressure. So the set point of the mean arterial blood pressure is 93 mmHg. Set point is basically the range in which that variable, in which the regulated variable has to be kept. Okay, so here the regulated variable is the mean arterial pressure and the set point is 93 mmHg. Okay, then this variation in the mean arterial pressure, okay, there is change in the external environment, there is change in the internal environment, and there is a change in the blood pressure. Now this change in the mean arterial pressure will be detected by the baroreceptors. Here the baroreceptors are the sensors which detect the change in the regulated variable, and these baroreceptors are located where? They are located in the carotid sinus and the aortic arch. So when we talk about the baroreceptor reflex in the cardiovascular system, in that we will talk again about this system. Okay, so it will be then detected by the baroreceptors. It will stimulate the control center, which is the medulla. The cardiovascular center is located in the medulla, and from here the medulla would send the impulse to the effectors. So effectors will be the heart and the blood vessels. Okay, and this effectors will then generate what? They will generate the effector response, which will be then regulate the variation in the regulated variable. Okay, so suppose we take that the mean arterial blood pressure has been it has increased to about 110 mmHg. Okay, so this increase in the blood pressure will be detected by the baroreceptors. They will send the impulse to the medulla. The medulla will stimulate the effectors, and now these effectors will generate the effective response. So now we know that the negative feedback mechanism is basically done to decrease the change, or you can say the variation in the regulated variable. Okay, so there will be decrease in heart rate. Okay, because if there is decrease in heart rate, there will be decrease in the cardiac output, so there will be decrease in the blood pressure. It will increase the arterial diameter, because if there is increase in arterial diameter, there will be decrease in the total peripheral resistance. So there will be increase in the decrease in the blood pressure. Okay, so increase in the arterial diameter will decrease the total peripheral resistance, and it will decrease the mean arterial pressure. So if there is an increase in the variable, the effector response will be generated in such a way that it will decrease that variation, and hence it is called as the error reduction. Okay, so this is one example of the negative feedback mechanism. There are many examples, but here I wrote only 4 examples. As you progress in the physiology, in the further chapters of physiology, you will came to know that how the negative feedback mechanism is always used in every system of the body. Okay, and that is why we always study homeostasis in general physiology. So it is very important to know the basic of the homeostasis, because it forms the backbone of physiology. Okay, so with this we move on to the before that we need to know another term which is called as a gain. What is gain? The gain determines the efficiency of negative feedback mechanism. It tells us how efficient is the negative feedback mechanism. Greater the value of the gain, more efficient will be the mechanism. Okay, so the formula is correction applied divided by residual error. So we know that the negative feedback mechanism is actually doing the correction. So more the correction it is able to done, more will be the effectiveness of the negative feedback mechanism. Now how we can determine the gain? We can see by this example. So here the example is the mean arterial pressure raised from its set point of 90 mmHg to 120 mmHg during exercise. Okay, so there is variation in the regulated variable. Now the baroreceptor reflex will brings it down to 100 100 mmHg. Find the gain of the baroreceptor reflex. So here the correction which is being applied is what? It will be the subtraction of what? The value right now and the set point. So 120 minus 90 mmH, 120 minus 100 mmHg. Okay, so the value which is the mean arterial pressure right now and the arterial pressure which occurs as a response of the baroreceptor reflex. So it will be 120 minus 100 equal to 20 mmHg. Okay, what is the error is that the error will be the subtraction of the value after the application of the baroreceptor reflex and the set point, that is 100 minus 90. 100 is a pressure which occurs after the application of the baroreceptor reflex and 90 is the set point. Okay, so it will be considered as the residual error. Okay, so now we find the gain as the divide of correction applied divided by residual error. So it will be 20 divided by 10 equal to 2. So 2 is the gain of this baroreceptor reflex. Higher the value of the gain, more efficient will be the system. If you find that if there could be a question asking you that which is the most efficient negative feedback mechanism in our body, so it is the kidney fluid balance mechanism because it has the gain of infinity. So if the gain is infinity, it means that the residual error in that case will be equal to 0. Okay, so now this is a small assignment for you. You have to write the answer, you have to write the gain of the thermoregulatory mechanism in the comment section. Okay, so now we move on to the next mechanism, which is a positive feedback mechanism, a type of feedback mechanism. So as I have already told you that it is a series of changes that increase the variation in the regulated variable by positive response to the initiating stimulus. So there will be error amplification. Okay, it is a vicious cycle which terminates when the initiating stimulus is removed. Because there is continuous amplification of the error, definitely it is a vicious cycle. Now the question arises, then why it is called as a homeostatic mechanism? If there is error amplification, if the variable is not written to its set point, then how the homeostasis is maintained and how it is called as a homeostatic mechanism? The answer is the positive feedback is itself a part of our overall negative feedback process. What does it mean? We can understand by the help of an example. In the case of blood clotting, the positive feedback clotting process is a negative feedback process for the maintenance of normal blood volume. If there is a blood vessel injury, there will be bleeding, there will be loss of the blood volume. So in order to protect the organism from that, in order to preserve or in order to maintain the normal blood volume, the blood clotting process will happen, which is actually a positive feedback process. Okay, another example is a parturition reflex. Parturition reflex is a childbirth reflex. So childbirth is done in order to restore the physiology of a non-gravid, or you can say the non-pregnant woman. Okay, if the child came out of the uterus, only then the woman will came back to its normal physiology, or you can say to the non-pregnant physiology. So that is why positive feedback is considered as a part of a negative feedback process, and that is why it is considered as a homeostatic mechanism. The other examples of positive feedback mechanism are the Hawkins cycle, which we will cover when we talk about the action potential, activation of digestive enzymes, and the LH surge. Okay, so in this video I will just talk about the first two examples. So number one is the blood coagulation. So there is injury to the blood vessel. That injury will cause the activation of the clotting factors, and this clotting factors will activate the further unactivated clotting factors, and this unactivating clotting factors, once they get activated, will cause the activation of the other clotting factors, and this cycle will continue until what? Until the blood is, or you can say until there is formation of a permanent clot. Okay, so the next example is the parturition reflex. The matured fetus will cause the cervix distension, the efferent fibers from the uterus will go to posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary will secrete the oxytocin, and oxytocin will cause a further contraction of the uterus, which will cause the further cervix distension by the fetus head. Okay, this will continue until the child of the birth will take place. Okay, so this is the example of positive feedback mechanism. Now the next category of the homeostatic mechanism is the feed-forward mechanism. Feed-forward mechanism is different from the feedback mechanism. Okay, feedback mechanism occurs when a variation occurs and then a response generates in response to that. Okay, so there is change in the external environment, there is change in internal environment. It will be detected by a sensor, and then there will be generation of a response which alter or which reverse that change in the variable. But here what has happened in the feed forward, there is no change in the variable happened yet, but it is supposed that the change will be happen in the future. So before any change could happen, there will be a change, there will be a mechanism activated in the body in order to ensure that the regulated variable doesn't go out of its normal range. Okay, so the one of the example is the breathing frequency, which gets increased before the start of the exercise in order to prevent the hypoxia. Okay, so feed forward is a mechanism to permit the body to predict a change in the physiology of the organism and initiate a response that can reduce the movement of a regulated variable out of its normal range, and that is why it is able to maintain the homeostasis. So this is just a small table showing the difference between the feedback and the feed-forward mechanism. Feedback mechanism will generate the response after it detects the variation, and feed-forward mechanism will generate the response in advance of any variation. There will be a time gap between the variation and the response in feedback mechanism, whereas there is no time lag between the variation and the response in feed-forward mechanism. You can also write the examples of these two in the different columns. Okay, so with this we reached at the end of this video. If you like this video, please like, share and comment on this video. Don't forget to write your answer of gain of thermoregulatory mechanism in the comment section. It will help me to understand that how much you gain from this video. And please comment down your suggestions for the upcoming video, because it will help me to decide that what should I post next on my channel. Okay, you can follow HM Learnings on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for daily updates. I will share the SlideShare link of this video slides on the description box. So you can go and click on that link and you will be on the SlideShare. If you want me to take the live classes for you, please let me know in the comment section, or you can mail me. Okay, till then, keep learning.